Okay, well, welcome to another interview for the Millionairess Magazine and the Millionairess Movement. I'm Amanda Jane Clarkson, Editor-in-Chief, and today I am truly delighted to be joined by inspirational business dynamo and proud mama, Jenna Zwagil. Jenna is the Chief Marketing Officer for MyDailyChoice. With a bachelor's degree in marketing, Jenna has been a successful network marketer and social media influencer for the past 10 years in the network marketing industry. Jenna co-founded HempWorks due to her own health journey with products that ignited a movement and helped take sales from 7 million in 2017 to 100 in 2018 and to a massive 170 million revenue in 2019. Jenna is also ranked on the top income earner list for network marketing, and it's her mission to bring the HempWorks products to the rest of the world while empowering people to achieve their goals. Jenna likes spending time with her family, writing music, reading, and inspiring others. Welcome, Jenna, to the Millionairess Magazine and the Millionairess Movement. We are really looking forward to hearing wisdom from such a young lady. Wow, you're in your 30s, I believe.
Yes, I am. I'm 34, just turned 34 in May.
That is incredible. You know, I remember back when I was 34, I was still just living the life, you know, not even thinking about my future. And, you know, it's really inspirational to see women in your age category just making an incredible impact on other people's lives, but, you know, forging ahead with a business that's truly phenomenal. So why don't you tell us your story of how you got to where you are right now?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a journey. I was exposed to the network marketing industry when I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
And, you know, back then it was just a whiteboard. Actually, it was an easel, pad of paper and whiteboard markers. And it was some guy that was presenting, drawing lots of circles on the board, talking about McDonald's and Ray Kroc and the power of franchising and how referral marketing would be this big thing. And, you know, I remember at 18 years old thinking, well, this sounds better than getting a job. So maybe I'll try this. And of course, I failed epically. Initially, when I first got into the industry, I swiped my first credit card that I just got and couldn't even pay the bill 30 days later. I didn't make any money in the industry. So at first I was like, well, maybe this isn't, you know, my thing. Maybe it's not for me. But that was my first exposure, which, you know, it planted a seed, you know.
Yeah.
And every time I was in a career that I wasn't passionate for or excited about, I always thought about maybe I could still be an entrepreneur. Maybe there's still another way that I could get back in and actually make it work this time. So fast forward to 2014, I had all kinds of other network marketing company experiences. And at that time, I actually decided I was going to leave the industry because what I found was that it just seemed like it was the same group of people that were always at the top of the compensation plan. It was the same people going from company to company that were always successful. And I didn't truly believe that I had a way to make it. And, you know, I left the company convention July 2014 and decided, you know, I'm done with this industry. I'm going to just try something else. So I got back into kind of like insurance sales. I was a farmer's insurance agent for a little while, got my insurance licenses multiple times, actually let them lapse and then have to take the test again. But I met my husband in July of 2014 also. And at the time, well, we weren't married, but we met then, and he was 23 years old. I was 28, and I already had 2 kids by then, and 2 boys, and from previous marriage. And I thought that maybe I was going crazy to be following somebody that was 23 years old and no kids, never been married. He's only been in one network marketing company his entire life. He would reach success immediately. And I thought to myself, this kid doesn't know about life yet. Like, what am I getting into taking his advice? And I told him my story. I said, I'm getting out of network marketing. It's just not for me. And he said, it's funny you should say that because I'm going to start my own company. Right. I said, well, have fun with that. Good luck. You know? And he's like, no, you've got to come with me. You've got to come join with me. So I reluctantly agreed. I said, I'll join your company if you do things differently. if you put the affiliate first, you put the people first, pay them fair wages. Don't make it so hard for people to get paid. Make it, an actual option for people to reach the top, do things differently. And he said, that's exactly why I'm starting my own company instead of going with anywhere else. So that was the inception of My Daily Choice. And how HempWorks came to be was that winter of 2014, I became very ill. And I can't give you specifics on that because I don't want to make any medical claims or anything like that. But, just long story short, my hair was falling out. My skin was just a mess. I was exhausted. According to my doctor, I was not absorbing any nutrition in my body. So I went on this health journey to try and find different ways to deal with this. And the doctors didn't have any good advice for me. They said, there's no cure. There's nothing that we can do. We can just keep doing tests and, things and try to figure this out. And I remember sitting in the doctor's office one day. This was 2016. Josh and I had already got married. We moved to Las Vegas. And I remember sitting there and reading an article about cannabis on my phone while I'm in the waiting room for the last hour. And I said, cannabis could be the answer here. So what am I doing in a doctor's office? So I walked out of the doctor's office. The lady comes chasing after me. Hey, you're up next. Are you sure you don't want to see a doctor? And I said, no, there's no answers here. So I'm going to go find go get my medical marijuana card and see what the dispensary has for me. And never having marijuana exposure or experience before, and I didn't even know the difference at the time between marijuana and hemp and how cannabis was both of those together, right? Same species, but different. They're cousins of the same species. So I just remember I was on the fourth day of a massive headache, walked in, got my card. It was very simple. And I started, looking at all the different types of CBD oil. So this was my first chance to kind of get into my first exposure to CBD. And at first I wasn't really impressed. I didn't have any drastic results. I didn't have any life-changing experience. So at first I thought, maybe CBD doesn't work. Maybe it doesn't just work for me. Maybe this is, nothing. And this was in 2016 before you saw this big boom that happened thereafter. So about a year later, I'm still experimenting with all these different kinds of CBDs. We finally made up with a farm in Kentucky who's started the hemp research pilot program through the University of Kentucky. And they said, hey, you guys want some samples? I said, I'd love some samples. I'd love to just try anything at this point.
Yeah.
They sent me samples, and within 7 days, my symptoms began to reverse, and I feel normal for the first time in the last, I don't know however many years, my whole life, really. I feel like I've been struggling with this, probably undiagnosed for a long time. So at that point, I knew we were onto something big. So at first I was like, maybe this is a placebo, right? So I'm gonna just give this product out to as many people as I can to see if they had the same experience that I had. And so I began giving it to friends and family. They all came back, hey, miraculously, they're getting better. They're feeling better. They're feeling more like themselves again. So I tell Josh, my husband, I said, we got to bring this into My Daily Choice. We got to get this out to the masses. And he's like, well, what are you going to call it? And I said, let's call it HempWorks because this hemp works.
Perfect name, isn't it? I love
right?
it.
And he said, okay, well, I can't put it into my business, right? CBD is already high risk as it is. You wanted me to do network marketing and CBD together? That's outrageous. And at the time, it really was. Nobody was really doing that at the time. And I said, fine, I'll do it without you then. So about a week or two later, I worked on just a regular Shopify website. I created the logos, created the branding all myself, just on my laptop. And within a couple weeks, I was in business and something crazy happened. I announced on Facebook that I was going to be selling these products, and just to consumers. There was no affiliate marketing or anything involved with that yet. And I started a Facebook group, and within 8 weeks, this group went from 0 to 100,000 members. And I was getting hundreds of testimonials every day. And my orders were from, 5 orders a day to 100 orders a day to 200 orders a day. And it became this massive movement that I no longer could contain. So I went back to Josh and I said, all right, I've tested it out and the world is speaking. They want these products and they want them now. Now is the time. And he said, all right, let's merge. So HempWorks became a brand and a product line within MyDailyChoice, which was the network marketing company that my husband had created back in 2014. So 2017, we merged. And at the end of 2017, we ended at 9.7 million in sales. The following year, we became the fastest growing network marketing company in the entire industry. We went from 10 million to 100 million in 1 year. That was 1100% growth, which is kind of unheard of.
I've never heard of it before myself.
So
Wow.
that's the story, you know, and they say the rest is history, but it's been, you know, an upward trajectory ever since. And people are still loving the products and taking them still to this day.
Congratulations. That is just incredible. And I can see that you truly care about serving other people and helping them find solutions to their own problems. And I saw an interview where you talked about the 10 things that led you to success that you're now achieving. And the first thing in your list was that you rewired your brain. Now, from an entrepreneurial perspective, because this is the magazine where millions of women will be watching you over time, following you, and I know they are now. And they want to be you. They want the success that you're achieving. And, you know, how do you rewire your brain? Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because, you know, when you first started out, I have no doubt you had to do a little bit of work on yourself, as we all do.
Yes, I had to do massive amount of work on myself. In fact, you know, I had been in the industry since I was 18 years old, but never reached success before age 30. And in 2016 is when I was 30 years old, and I don't know if we want to call that a midlife crisis, because it definitely isn't midlife, but it was definitely rock bottom for me.
Yeah.
And I'll explain why. You know, before then, I was struggling with my past. I was struggling with, you know, past traumas and self-worth issues. I really didn't feel like I deserved success, even though I was trying to shoot for it. And I feel like at the heart of the majority of people, they have issues they've got to work on. And because we're all born on this default setting, right? And we're systematically placed into society through our education system, through our doctors, through, you know, the legal system, judicial system. We are in this system which molds us and shapes us to become robots, essentially, you know. And entrepreneurship is not ever really mentioned. Reaching success is mentioned, but only within the guidelines of this system. And so it takes a little bit of time to kind of think about how you're going to rewire your own programming. Because if you think about it, if you start a business tomorrow and you run home and you tell your friends and family, I just started a business, and you're super excited, you're probably going to be met with some resistance and negativity, because it's outside of the norm. And anytime you do anything outside of the norm, you're faced with criticism from other people that are too afraid to do it themselves, right?
Yep.
So for me, you know, I had to deal with all of my old issues that I was holding on to. And I had to surrender. I had to surrender and say, I deserve this. I can achieve this. And I got to the point mentally, and how I did it was literally through trying to reprogram my subconscious mind so that my conscious thoughts were in alignment, and through affirmations and literally just brainwashing myself on a daily basis. I use things like the Think Up app, which I've talked about many times in some of my previous trainings, where you can record your own positive affirmations. And at first I felt like I was lying to myself, you know, because I was saying things like, I'm a successful entrepreneur, I'm, you know, a millionaire, I'm all of these things. First, I'm like, I'm lying to myself, right? But over time, it sounded right. It sounded normal. And before I knew it, I was getting into my Ford Fusion, which I hated this car, but I had this car. It was the only thing I had left after I had to file for bankruptcy in 2015. And I remember getting in this car and feeling so grateful and feeling like this is my dream car, just visualizing the things that I wanted in my life and the, you know, desires I wanted to achieve. So over time, it felt like I had already achieved success way before I ever did. And so when success came, it was no shocker. It was expected. And I anticipated this manifestation, if you will. So how I did it, well, I had to read. I read a lot of books. You know, my parents weren't in my life at the time, so I relied heavily on, mentors through, I looked to Bob Proctor, I looked to Napoleon Hill, I looked to Esther and Jerry Hicks, some of the authors that really, I feel like, shaped my life. And the old me would talk myself out of doing those things, out of reading that sort of material, because when you first read it, if you're not used to hearing any of these concepts, the law of attraction, law of vibration, it sounds crazy, right? It sounds like woo-woo speak. But I was in such a place in my life where, like, literally I would just try anything. So I opened up my mind, opened up my heart to receiving this information, and it drastically changed my life.
I love what you've touched on. A couple of things that I want to bring up here. We talk inside Millionaires here and the movement, self-worth equals your net worth equals your life worth. And I want to talk a little bit about self-worth, because I think this is where women, especially as entrepreneurs, really struggle. I'm from the 60s. There was no internet till I was nearly 40. So you can imagine that as an entrepreneur, starting 14 different businesses throughout my life, and the things that we have to deal with mentally and emotionally, because there was no such thing as personal development when I was growing up. It was never talked about. And so my self-worth was at an all-time low. And I had to do so much work, like you're talking about with these authors and many more mentors. But you touched on something called surrender. Now, I love the way you describe that. So as an entrepreneurial woman, can you share with the ladies who are listening to this going, yeah, I've read those books. I've heard about Esther Hicks. I've heard about Napoleon Hill. But that next step really is about surrendering, letting go of the ego, letting go of the past conditioning. How did you go through that? And somebody listening to this, Jenna, can you describe what you mean by surrender?
Yeah, well, in 2016, when I hit rock bottom, I remember crying on the bathroom floor, and I had two options. I could either give in to these negative thoughts and continue going down my life this way, or I could give up, and surrender, right? Just give up all of the resistance within myself. And it took me a long time to even have the awareness to be able to do that. But everything that I had thought, based on all the training and at the time, I will just say I was an atheist, right? I was born and raised in the church until I was 24 years old. After age 24, I flipped the switch and became an atheist, which basically just hindered my entire spiritual growth from that moment on. Yeah. And anytime I saw any sort of sign from the universe, I talked myself straight out of it. I was like, no, there's got to be a scientific explanation for everything that's happening here. So at that moment in time, I decided, you know what, even though this sounds completely stupid to me and crazy to me, I remember just talking to the universe. All right, if you're out there, or whoever is out there, if you're listening, send me a sign, something, right? And I started looking for just sparks of opportunity, and just decided that I was not going to talk my way out of this anymore. I decided what my goals would be. And then I also decided that anything that was not in alignment with these things had to be shoved out completely. I had to completely put my blinders on and protect my own energy, protect myself from my own thoughts. I had to correct a lot of old patterns and old paradigms of, old thinking. So at first it was very uncomfortable, right? Yeah. To kind of try to rewrite the track that's in my mind, right? But over time it became very easy, and I started to identify it much quicker, because your emotions are your guidance system. So I knew that if I was feeling good and positive and happy, that I was in alignment with where I was trying to go. And if I was feeling negative and sad and sorry for myself or depressed, right, then I knew I was out of alignment. So I really looked to my emotions as the guidance for where my thoughts were, because your thoughts which amplified by your emotions is exactly what you're creating. So that's kind of how I decided to surrender. I surrendered because I finally came to the conclusion that what I was doing was not working. So there must be something else out there that is right, that has some truth to it. And I had to just stop being so stubborn to seeing it, because it was right in front of my face the whole time.
It's truly gold what you're sharing there for so many people who are, yes, stubborn and stuck in their ways. I remember when I was in my very young 30s, about your age actually, and I was studying to be a personal trainer, and I heard the quote from Jim Rohn: life doesn't get better by chance, it gets better by change. And you would have heard formal education can make you a living, self-education can make you a fortune. And like you, I wanted a different life. I wanted a life of freedom and choice. And it was in that moment, I think that was my biggest epiphany when I was in my 30s, going, wow, there's something else out here rather than the old conformity of school and the old way of thinking. And you really do need to break away from people, we call them down here pullers, people who try and pull you back into the pit of misery. I don't know what words you use over there, but I've had to let go of a lot of people on this journey that didn't want to see my success, didn't understand my dreams, not that they needed to. How do you deal with that, Jenna? You know, you've got family members, we have friends, we have people around us that don't want us to change because it really puts the light on their life, or they don't want to see you change. They don't want you to move out of their life. How do you deal with these types of people?
I remove them completely from my awareness altogether, and even now to this day, I'm very protective of my energy and my space and who I let into my awareness, because I know that our awareness is our power, and where we're directing it is our creation. So for me, at age 18, I couldn't wait to get out of the house. That's
Yeah.
why I rushed off and got married and got pregnant all at once. I just could not wait to be an adult and just make my own decisions. So I've always been kind of, independent in that sort of way. I joined the military at age 23, I believe I was. And, just never kind of looked back. I took off and never looked back. And because of that, other people's opinions never really weighed on me too much. I've always been the kind of person that just didn't care what other people thought. And that's served me in some ways, and it's also hindered me in other ways. But I think, when you get to that point in your life where you're going to do something with or without the approval of others is when you really find your power. So, how do I deal with negative people now, or people that want to pull me down? I just realized that I'm in control of what I'm creating, and nobody else is. And I don't need to accept their opinions of me based on the filters that they have on their own mindset.
And so to do that, Jenna, do you surround yourself with mentors, a mastermind of people going in the same direction? What would you say about mentors and being in a right mastermind, a collective group of people who want to get to the top of their success mountain?
I do. And most of my mentors are, the authors in the books that I read. Just depends on what I want to improve on at the time is what I'll just focus on completely. My husband is one person that's in my mastermind completely. In fact, we don't have an off switch. People, we work together, we live together. Work life is all meshed together.
Same.
People say, "Do you have work-life balance?" No, we don't. It's just continuous.
But this is balance. This is what we love to do, isn't it? We're entrepreneurs. We love it. 7 days a week, 24/7. We are.
Yeah, and I feel like something's wrong when I'm not in, the mode of creating. So, we bounce each other ideas off of each other all the time, and come up with new things all the time. So he's one in my mastermind. I've had other mentors also in the past that used to challenge my thinking. Anytime I'd speak a limiting belief or, excuse for why I couldn't do something, I had mentors that put me in check every step of the way. And I think that really helped me kind of see things from a different perspective altogether.
And do you believe that having mentors has helped catapult your success in any way, shape, or form?
I do. I really do. Because I didn't grow up with these sorts of influences. I grew up in a very small town. One of my first jobs was working at a Wendy's inside of a gas station, flipping hamburgers, and that is kind of the way people end up in my town. Like, that's a good job where I'm from. And, I just never wanted to accept that that was my lot in life. And because I didn't want to adopt this reality, I didn't adopt the opinions of the people that were there also. Um, so I would say that I had to find new influences and new mentors to help kind of guide me, because the ones I grew up with weren't the ones that I needed to get me to the next level.
And just on that, do you believe that it has an impact on your future, especially if you want success, that who you hang around, you eventually become? What would you say to women that hanging around people that are just not conducive to their success?
I think that you have to be in the right environment in order to grow. And just like with your plants or anything else, even with your children, I mean, there's no exception. You have to sometimes change your environment altogether in order for yourself to grow, because it's very, very, very difficult to be this one little positive person in a world of toxic, So sometimes you've got to take yourself out of that situation altogether in order to really be free. So I know that was true for me. And the first thing I did was move out of town. So um, absolutely. I think, some people are afraid, I feel like, to lose their friends and lose their family and lose these relationships. But I don't necessarily think you've got to cut ties completely. I think it just has to be a conscious choice that you're not going to let anything in without your consent. And this goes beyond just people in your life. The other influences we listen to are the media, TV, we listen to radio, podcast. What's on the radio? What are you reading? What are you, all the things that we are allowing into our subconscious mind, that's what's really shaping us without even realizing it. So those are the other influences that we have to be aware of to kind of create the environment we need in order to grow.
Couldn't agree more. I was watching a video of you last night on Facebook. You did a marvelous job putting your makeup on while you're mentoring your people, I've got to tell you. A bit hard putting the lippy on, I agree, at the end of it. But the reason I wanted to listen to that is I wanted to see how you mentored people. And I love the fact that you brought up talking about people letting go of their stories. So many people love to hold on. I call it the dead horse, and it kind of stinks. You've got to bury that thing. How do you help your people, because you have tens of thousands of followers, no doubt, how do you help them drop their story to be able to step into success? Because while we hold on to that story, there is no success. And so how do you help them move through that?
I take I look at it from the biggest perspective I can think of, like, for instance, we are all stardust, right? Let's
Yes.
just get down to the basics here. We're all stardust. We're all made of the same thing. And we live in a world of vibration. Everything is vibrating. Even we think that we are this solid matter, but really we are just vibrating at a very high rate. And because of that, the words that come out of our mouth are also vibrations. They're also frequencies. And if you are on the wrong frequency, no matter what you do or say, you will never manifest what you're trying to get to, because you're a mixed match. You're not on the same channel, right? So if you're telling your old story over and over again, you're literally on a subconscious loop over and over and over again. And if you're identifying with your story and you're emotionally invested in your old story, then that is what you're going to be creating over and over again. You will never create anything different. So I tell people all the time that your words are your magic. It's magic spells. Anything that you're speaking, be very conscious of that. Sometimes my children speak negatively if we're, playing a board game and they get down on themselves or something like that. Oh, well, I might as well throw in the towel now because I'm too far behind. I say, be careful what you say, because that is what will happen next. So you have to be very, very conscious of the words that are coming out of your mouth. First, they start as thoughts and then they come out as words. Words vibrate and set in motion the frequency of where you're going to end up. So I tell people that they should write out their old story. Let's just put it out there, right? On one half of a piece of paper. On the other half, write out your new story. What do you want to be true? It doesn't have to be true right this second, right? Because everything in your past has created your present, and what you're creating in your present is creating your future. So you don't need to write what's happening now. What do you want to be in the future? That's your new story. Now start speaking about that, right? And disidentify completely with your old story. Tear the page down the middle and then burn it. It's over with. It's gone. You don't have to carry that baggage anymore. You can drop it off at any time. Some of us feel we've got to bring these bags with us everywhere we go because we wear our identities like shields, Oh, well, I would have done that except I had a bad childhood. And now because of this, I've got to carry this with me at all times. You don't. You can drop it off at any time, and you don't have to even be the same person you were 15 minutes ago. Yeah. Part of our power is being able to reinvent ourselves. And just knowing that is power in itself.
Such incredible wisdom from a young woman, and anyone listening to this interview or reading it, really hope you are writing everything down Jenna talks about, because it's so true. And the thing I love about you, Jenna, is that you're an action taker. You're a no excuses kind of lady. You know what you want and you're going for it, and you just won't tolerate anything but the success that you obviously desire and are achieving. For any woman reading this or listening to this, they're sitting at home going, I'd really love to be like Jenna. I really want success. What's the number one thing that you would say to that woman today? She wants it so bad and she's standing on the edge of the cliff. What would you say to her?
Become fearless. Become fearless. Just absolutely go for it, and do not entertain any thoughts of doubt. Because if you believe that you can get there, the universe will conspire to deliver exactly that. But you have to believe it as if it were already here. That is the key, is you have to be on that frequency right now. So don't be afraid. Don't listen to anybody else. Don't listen to anybody that's out of alignment with where you're heading. If it's your husband, fine, put him on pause for a little bit and say, you can see me later if you want to, right? My husband told me no also, and that's okay. Because while these people love us and care for us and want the best for us, they don't want us to get our hearts broken at our failed attempts, but just know you're gonna fail. And that's okay, because failure is progress. You're going to make a fool of yourself. You're going to have to encounter all kinds of things along the way, right? And every obstacle that comes your way, just know it's opportunity for growth. And as soon as you conquer that, you've figured out another way to get closer to your dream. So don't give up. Don't tell yourself that it's just a fantasy, because everything that you want can be yours and more.
That's beautiful. And just before we go, I want to touch quickly on perceived failure. I think that the idea or the thought of it freaks people out, keeps them trapped and small, worrying about what other people are going to say, self-criticism, external criticism. Would you be kind enough to share a couple of bumps in the road along your journey? Because I know, or I believe that the revenue you're turning over, which is probably way more than 170 million for this year, it's not a smooth road entrepreneurship, is it? It is a roller coaster of emotions, moments of sheer heartbreak. Would you like to share a couple of those moments with us, and then how you got up and pulled your big girl courage pants on and kept going?
I've always stayed true to my mission, which was getting these products to the rest of the world. And we're still on this mission because we haven't reached every corner of the world yet. For Australia, for instance.
You got to get down here, love.
Trying to get there, right? But, you've got to really think about your mission and why you're doing what you're doing, because you are going to be hit at every angles you never even thought of, and they're going to get harder and harder the higher you rise, from legal challenges to shipping challenges to employee challenges. We didn't even have really a corporate staff when we got involved initially. It was just kind of the two of us, and we've just kind of put the pieces together along the way. I could go on and on about the struggles we faced, but I look at them now when we're hit with a struggle or an obstacle in our path, we know that this is an opportunity for us to learn something that we need to know in order to get to the next level. So your challenges won't be the same as mine. they're going to be unique to your story. They're going to be customized. The universe is going to customize your obstacles for you because it's exactly what you have to fix within yourself, or some piece of knowledge you have to have in order to become the next best version of yourself. So don't let it discourage you. It's part of the process. And as long as you have the right expectations, you won't be afraid when they come your way.
So you just said something there that I want to touch on. Don't lose sight of your mission. Are you suggesting or saying that instead of focusing on your problem, which is always going to be a problem in business, you're focused on the mission of serving the people and getting the product to solve the problems, and that's what keeps you getting up in even the hardest of times?
Absolutely. You know, it's easy to give up on ourselves because we're just ourselves, right? It's easy to say, maybe this isn't for me. But when you start thinking about all the people that you can potentially impact and all the lives that you can change, you may think that you don't have what it takes to be a world-renowned influencer, but you never know what can happen with an idea so small that can explode overnight. And I say this because of the amount of people that have come to me in tears that have told me, you know, your products have changed my life. You know, I wasn't walking, you know, a few years ago. I was bedridden for the last 20 years, you know, and now I'm running up and down the stairs again. You've given me my life back. You know, you've given me my marriage back. You've given me my children back. You know, I see the faces of the mothers. I see the hope that has returned in their eyes. And because of that, I do it for them. It's not because of me. I would have given up on myself a long time ago, probably. And in fact, I had given up on myself many times before I decided to stop giving up on myself. But your why and your mission has to be first, and you have to do it for something bigger than yourself, because that's going to keep you accountable when the times get really tough. And they will get really tough. But just know that your mission is not necessarily just for you. It's for the impact that you can have on everybody else.
That is really special, you know, that's soulful serving there at its best. And, you know, thinking about other people, that's what we say, focus on other people's problems, or focus on the solutions, in fact, not your problems, because there is always going to be something going on in your life. And sometimes I've no doubt people have said to you, or thought about it at least, well, if it's so good and you're making so much money, Jenna, why would you be sharing it with the world? Have you ever had that said to you? And if not, what would you say to somebody who said that to you? Because I've heard it so many times.
It's kind of like when you're a child and you're experiencing Christmas for the first time, you know, all you want to do is tear through the packages and see what you've got, right? But as you get older in your life, the joy comes from the gift of giving, and seeing the light bulb go off in other people, and seeing that aha moment. And you know, when I can transfer my wisdom to somebody else and it clicks, you know, I do it for that. I do it for the Christmas morning where I get to see them excited about what they've received. And you know, it's not about the money for me. I will be just as happy as I am today without all of the money and the house and the cars and all the things that I've achieved. But I like to be able to give this same opportunity to other people, because not so much because I feel that they need these things to be happy, because that's definitely not it, but to see the belief return to them where they know that they've been able to achieve something. You know, that does it for me. Just to be able to unlock somebody, you know, whatever's holding them back, that catapults them through to their breakthrough. That's why I do what I do. And I think that there's no price on that, you know. And if you really, really love what you do, it's going to show. Your passion will always shine through. And for me, I love to give, and giving is what makes me happy. I would much rather be the giver of the gift than the receiver of the gift. So I don't know, maybe that's just me, maybe that's weird, but that's
So
how
I
I
can
feel
see
about
it
it.
shining. I can see it coming through you. It's a spiritual payment and it's just nothing like it. It's hard to explain. And, you know, I can see your face lighting up. And when you even talk about the people's lives that you are changing, and seeing somebody or hearing somebody being able to run up the stairs after being bedridden for 20 years, you can't put a price on that, right?
Right. Absolutely. There's nothing like it. And even the people that I mentor that, when I've met them, they have been down on themselves, full of excuses, full of reasons why they can't. And for them to finally have that belief within themselves and to go out and conquer everything that they wanted to conquer. I tell them after they have this aha moment within themselves, I tell them, all right, now that you know the secret now, right? There's a movie out there called The Secret. Now that you know it, it is your duty to pay it forward. And that's what I say to every single person that I work with. It's now you have to go pass this on to somebody else. And I think that's what has created the biggest ripple effect, at least in my time so far.
It's really gorgeous. And where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, Jenna?
I just think, I do believe our business is going to continue to boom. I don't think cannabis is going away anytime soon. But 5 years from now, I'll have a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, and, 2 older kids as well. So I'm still a mom first. I'm still family first, parenting and doing all the fun things that life brings. But, the sky's the limit. There's nothing I could want more for right now. So right now I'm just in the mode of creation, and it's just a wonderful place to be. I do think within the next 5 years I'll have a book coming out. So that is something that I'm working on and excited to share with the world someday soon.
Oh, well, I'd love to read it. This has been a really special conversation. Such a young woman, a mum, an entrepreneur, and I don't think I've ever had a conversation with anybody who's grown a company so quickly and profoundly. So many people that you are impacting in a positive way. It is a really unique and special conversation. So I want to say thank you for that. And so literally anyone who's listened to this or reading this, there is zero excuse. In fact, there's a book I would like to write one day. Maybe you could write it, Excuse-itis. There is zero excuses left, and you are living proof what is possible with an open heart and an open mind and it's making that decision and committing to it and being determined not to be pulled off track. And so the last question I'd love to ask of you, Jenna, is what would you specifically love to be known and remembered for?
When it's all said and done, I just want to be remembered by the positive impact that I've created in other people's lives. People say I could never be an influencer, but really, if you can add value to other people's lives, you're an influencer. So I look for ways to add value to people's lives on a daily basis. And because of that, that's what makes me whole, So I want to be remembered for that legacy, not necessarily, HempWorks or MyDailyChoice or network marketing or success. It's really, I want to be known for the impact that I've had in other people's lives.
Well, on that note, I just want to let you know how important this conversation is and what an integral part you've played in the Millionairess movement, and to say thank you, because I see this as a world global stage where women like ourselves can come together to impart our wisdom and our experience to help other women step into their best selves and create the life that they dream of. I know that they dream of it because you and I have dreamt of it our whole life. And it means a lot to us. And I just really want to say thank you from my heart. I've thoroughly enjoyed learning more about your journey. And who knows, maybe one day we might get to meet. We plan on coming over to Vegas next year. We were coming this year, but we cannot fly yet. They're not opening. And who knows, I'd love to meet you in person one day.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me and sharing this time with me as well. It's great to meet you, and much success to you in the magazine.
Thank you so much. You have a lovely afternoon, and Robin, our publisher, will be in touch with all the details. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. So thank you, Jenna. You have a fabulous day.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.